New Bombshell report confirms FBI ran massive spy operation against Trump by Amy Moreno for truthfeednews.com. The crooked FBI, run by disgraced former FBI Director James Comey and his equally disgraced cohort, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, were running a spy operation against President Trump's campaign. Now there's a surprise, right? A new report states that the FBI's secret operation against President Trump involved government informants, secret subpoenas, and illegal wiretaps. Wow. You thought Watergate was bad. Now the next question is, who ordered this operation and when is that investigation taking place? From Breitbart. Leakers to the New York Times confirmed in a story published on Wednesday that the FBI had run a spy operation on the Trump campaign that involved government informants, secret subpoenas, and possible wiretaps. The story comes ahead of the release of the pending Department of Justice Inspector General's report on the FBI's actions during the 2016 election, and likely is an attempt by the leakers to paint the FBI's efforts in the most flattering light possible. But the story revealed that the FBI, which is supposed to be an apolitical agency, was spying on the Trump campaign through phone records and with at least one human asset. The FBI obtained phone records and other documents using national security letters, a secret type of subpoena, officials said. And at least one government informant met several times with Mr. Page and Mr. Papadopoulos, the Times reported, citing current and former officials. The revelation of at least one government informant appears to confirm a Washington Post story last week in which leakers revealed that the FBI had a top-secret intelligence source, a U.S. citizen who likely lived overseas who spied on members of the Trump campaign for the FBI. The Post's report came out as House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes was fighting the Justice Department for access to information on the source. According to the Wall Street Journal, Kimberly Strassel, the source meant the FBI secretly had a person on the payroll who used his or her non-FBI credentials to interact in some capacity with the Trump campaign. This would amount to spying, and it is hugely disconcerting, she wrote in a piece last Thursday. The Times story also seems to conflict with what the FBI has previously maintained, that the investigation into the Trump campaign began with information that Papadopoulos had told an Australian diplomat he knew the Russians had stolen emails that would be embarrassing for Clinton. Leakers told the Times that within hours of opening the investigation into the Trump campaign on July 31st, 2016, the FBI dispatched 2 agents to London to interview the Australian diplomat who had talked to Papadopoulos, meaning that the investigation had officially opened even before they interviewed him. In fact, it was not until 2 days after the investigation began that the agents summarized their interview, which apparently broke with diplomatic protocol, and sent the summary back to Washington. The Times story glosses over this discrepancy by saying the agent's report helped provide the foundation for the case instead of spark the case, as has been claimed. Those factors appear to confirm that the FBI had opened the investigation on the Trump campaign based on other information, perhaps the top-secret intelligence source. Strassel also questioned in her piece when the investigation really began and why, she wrote. When precisely was this human source operating? Because if it was prior to the infamous Papadopoulos tip, then the FBI isn't being straight. It would mean the Bureau was spying on the Trump campaign prior to that moment, and that in turn would mean that the FBI had been spurred to act on the basis of something other than a junior campaign aide's loose lips. The Times story is also vague as to when exactly FBI agents began looking into the Trump campaign, saying that it was days after their investigation on Hillary Clinton's email server ended. Comey had announced he would not seek charges against Clinton on July 5, 2016, and the FBI officially launched their investigation on July 31, 2016. According to the Times story, the investigation seems to have been sparked by suspicions over some campaign members' pre-existing connection with Russia before they joined the campaign. Flynn, a retired three-star general, was once paid $45,000 by Russian outlet Russia Today for a 2015 speaking engagement. Paul Manafort, a veteran Republican strategist, had lobbied for pro-Russian interests in Ukraine long before he joined the Trump campaign. Carter Page had previously worked in Moscow, and Russian spies had tried to recruit him. In Papadopoulos' case, he seemed to know Russia had political dirt on Clinton. The FBI found Trump's behavior suspicious, although he was not under investigation. FBI officials were also alarmed by reports that wrongly suggested that Trump's campaign had tried to change the GOP's stance on Ukraine in a way favorable to Russia. The Times story also confirms the FBI used the salacious Steele dossier in addition to FBI information to obtain a wiretap on Page. Democrats have tried to downplay the FBI's reliance on the document. The story reveals the FBI, instead of alerting the Trump campaign that it might be a target of Russian influence operations, went to lengths to hide the investigation. Former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates claimed in an interview with the Times that they did not want word of the investigation to leak and to impact the election. You do not take actions that will unnecessarily impact an election, she said. Instead, they secretly spied on the Trump campaign, as mentioned above, via phone records, secret subpoenas, and at least one informant. The story downplays the actions of FBI agent Peter Strzok, who played a key role in the Clinton email and Trump campaign investigations. The story claims that the FBI did not reveal eagerness to investigate Trump, citing one of Strzok's text messages to FBI lawyer Lisa Page, with whom he was having an extramarital affair. The Times quoted Strzok as texting Page, "I cannot believe we are seriously looking at these allegations and the pervasive connections." In reality, he had texted Page, "Oh my God, I can't believe we are seriously looking at these allegations and the pervasive connections." The Federalist's Molly Hemingway, who has reported on the FBI's investigation in depth, called the Times report an attempted whitewash of FBI behavior. There's her tweet there. I'm finding the numerous false statements in this attempted whitewash of FBI behavior to be frustrating. An example: undercover Uber. It's an embarrassment of an article. The New York Times should be ashamed to be stenographers for biased FBI and DOJ officials. Example 1. Strzok writes a message in sentence case with claim detached, air implied, whatever that means. Reality, oh my God, the entire message is a message in excited all caps. Okay. Hurricane began exactly 100 whatever presidential election, but we're eager to investigate Mr. So-and-so, whatever. But there you go. The story reveals that the code name for the investigation on the Trump campaign was Crossfire Hurricane, based on a Rolling Stones song. Yeah, and Q says that that's not the case, so who cares actually? Nowhere in the story, however, is there evidence of any collusion during the campaign. The story states that Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, was about to be cleared in November of 2016 until he took actions after the election that the FBI wanted to examine. The story also states the question they confronted still persists. Was anyone in the Trump campaign tied to Russian efforts to undermine the election? A year and a half later, no public evidence has surfaced connecting Mr. Trump's advisors to the hacking or linking Mr. Trump himself to the Russian government's disruptive efforts, it states. The story also shows former CIA Director John Brennan taking an active role in pushing the investigation along. We know about Brennan. By mid-August, Brennan shared intelligence with Comey showing that the Russian government was behind an attack on the election, it states. He also briefed top lawmakers that summer about Russian election interference and intelligence that Moscow supported the Trump campaign. Other reports have said Brennan sent a letter to the then Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, who then urged then FBI Director James Comey to investigate the Trump campaign in an August 27, 2016 letter that could be shared with media, even though there was already an open FBI investigation. A separate report on Wednesday, published by the American Spectator's George Newmeyer, I think, said that leaked news stories in the British press showed that Brennan's spying on Trump began around April of 2016. As it became urgently clear to Brennan that Trump was going to face off against Hillary, Brennan turned to intelligence partners in Europe for dirt on Trump, but they didn't have any. Save some pretty skimpy material on contacts between Trump campaign officials and Russians, he writes. He continues, yeah, there's Brennan, all right. He should be put away. From April 2016 to July 2016, according to leaked stories in the British press, he assembled a multi-agency task force that served as the beginning of a counterintelligence probe into the Trump campaign. So Brennan started all of this, heavy duty. During these months, he was personally briefing Obama on Russian interference, Brennan's euphemism for spying on the Trump campaign, and was practically camped out at the White House, so in all likelihood Obama knew about and had given his blessing to Brennan's dirt digging. I think Obama sent Brennan on this mission. The Times story seems to corroborate that task force. According to the Times, intelligence agencies began collaborating to investigate the Russian government attack on the election, which involved the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane team. The Crossfire Hurricane team was part of that group, but largely operated independently, 3 officials told the Times. Well, there you have it. Yep. There you have it. But Brennan is the big culprit. I mean, really, really a big culprit, a big force in this whole thing. We know Obama sent Brennan. They're all in it together. You know what I'm trying to say? They're all in it on it. This was a smear job on Trump, because they wanted control to bring this nation down. They wanted that New World Order government going on. That's why they wanted Hillary in, put us into conflict with Russia, wipe out, more than 50% of the population. There you have it, and good times are rolling, right? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.